I wish to begin this time at the beginning, lest I forget it again. And that is to say, I wish to thank you now for this welcome that you are giving me, and to thank you also for the welcome which you gave me 7 years ago, and which I forgot to thank you for at that time. And I also wish to thank you for the welcome which you have given me 14 years ago, and which I forgot to thank you for at that time. You know how it is when you are in a parlor with ladies, and you have been at dinner in somebody's house, and when you are going away, why common decency, or your own conscience, should suggest to you that it was a customary thing to say to the lady of the house that you have had an excellent and handsome time. Everybody can remember to say that, except myself, and therefore I always detest myself when I come away having forgotten the common courtesy due to the lady. And I am now paying back these honors by thanking you this time. I say that now because if I tried to say that when I get through, I should not think of it again until next week. And therefore, I had better say it now. I hope that you will continue this excellent custom of giving me a dinner every 7 years. I have enjoyed it so much on these 3 occasions that, although I have had the purpose in my mind some time of joining the hosts in the other world, I don't know which one of the worlds. I'm willing to postpone it for another 7 years. When you are the guest of honor at a banquet, you are always in a sort of embarrassed position, because the topics you are to talk to are compliments. Mr. Lawrence has paid me many compliments. Mr. Porter has paid me many compliments, and that is what always happens. It is very difficult to talk to compliments. I don't care whether you deserve the compliments or not. It is just as difficult to talk to them. The other night, at the engineer's dinner, I sat there and enjoyed the squirms of Mr. Carnegie here, because they were complimenting him. He was trying to think of something to say when they got through, and when they got through, of course, he couldn't. They were all compliments, and they were not deserved, and I tried to help him out by a few criticism and references to times which he and I know about and nobody else does. They say that one cannot live on bread alone, but I could live on compliments. I can't manage to digest them. Those things give me no trouble at all. I have often thought that I missed so much in this life that I didn't make a collection of compliments and put them away, where I could take them out now and then and look them over and enjoy them. And last autumn, when I came back from England, I had been through a good deal of complimenting there. I began to think that I missed it again. Now I am beginning to collect compliments and store them away as other people collect pipes and autographs, dogs and cats and books, and such things. I am collecting compliments. I have brought some of these compliments along, and you can see what they are. I wrote them down to preserve them, and I think they are very good and extraordinarily just. Here is Hamilton Mabie. He wrote an article in the Outlook a short time ago, and he put this in. I think it is one of the handsomest. He says, LaSalle was the first man to make the voyage of the great stream of the Mississippi, to which hordes of smaller streams are tributary. But Mark Twain was the first man to chart, light and indicate it for the whole world. If that could have been published at the time of the issue of my book on the Mississippi, it would have been money in my pocket. You can see how difficult it is to frame a compliment gracefully and make it ring true. It is a talent itself. I never possessed it. I wish I did. But a man who can pay a compliment of the nature of that compliment is in public need not make one ashamed of oneself. Here is the compliment of Albert Bigelow Paine, my biographer. He has written 4 octavo volumes about me. He has been right at my elbow for 2 years and a half making notes, and under these circumstances, if he doesn't know me, who does know me? This is his testimony. He says, Mark Twain is not merely a great writer, but a great philosopher and a great man. He is the supreme expression of the human being, with his strength and his weaknesses. What a talent for compression. It takes a genius in compression to compact as many facts as that. And now, then, I come to Mr. Howell's compliment. Howells, writing in the December Atlantic last month, going over his reminiscences of ancient days when he was editor of the Atlantic Monthly, about 35 years ago, or a little before that. And in this December Atlantic, when he had reached 70 years of his life, he was passing in procession before him Emerson and Lowell and Holmes and Whittier and other men that were in those days writing for the Atlantic, that is, 35 years ago. And then he came round to the younger men, the men that were just coming along, and he reached out to me, and he said of me then and now. Later, 1871, came Mark Twain, originally of Missouri, but then of Hartford, and now ultimately of the solar system, not to say the universe. It seems to me that is a satisfying kind of compliment. I know that if we can prove that my fame has reached to Neptune and Uranus, and possibly to some systems a little beyond there, why, that would satisfy me. Howells knows how to say those things, that courteous man. You know Howells, how sweet and gentle he is, how painfully modest and retiring he is. But you know deep down that man is as full of vanity as I am, and just as ready to show off as I am. You know Howells. They called him over there and made him an Oxford LL.D., and he came back with his red gown, and you'd always think that Howells wouldn't dare put that fiery gown on his back with all his ostensible modesty. Now that is a mistake. He told me himself 10 days ago that when he was going to a public function up here of some kind at Columbia University, he sent and asked what kind of a gown he had got to wear, the American black gown or the Oxford red gown. And they sent him word that it was not customary to appear in anything but the ordinary black university gown of America. And Howells said he went there, and in the great crowd of black gowns there were 3 of those red Oxford badges. Howells was so ashamed of himself and vexed with himself because he could have been one of those angels of light in that red, instead of being unnoticed with the general crowd of black men. And this is Mr. Edison's compliment. Edison was at that engineer's dinner the other night, where you, Mr. Carnegie, believed a lot of pleasant things that were not so. And this I took from a newspaper that said that when I had finished speaking and went home, Mr. Edison wrote on his dinner card and passed it to his neighbor. What he wrote was, "An American loves his family. If he has any love left over for some other person, he generally selects Mark Twain. I think the world of that great compliment. That suits me best. It is what I like to see. And finally, here is the compliment of a little Montana girl at some little town in Montana. She didn't send it to me. Some person in that town or some visitor sent it to Chicago, and it was sent out to me. This little girl was in a neighbor's house, and she was noticed gazing musingly at a large photograph of me on the mantelpiece. And presently she said, reverently, "We have got a John the Baptist like that at home, only ours has more trimmings." I suppose she meant the halo, and mine hasn't arrived yet. Now here is a gold miner's compliment, and this one is 42 years old. I remember the circumstances perfectly well. It was the introduction of Mark Twain, lecturer, to an audience of gold miners at Red Dog, California in 1866, by one of themselves. It was in a log house, a large schoolhouse, and the audience occupied benches without any back, and there were no ladies present. They didn't know me then, but all just miners with their breeches tucked into their boot tops and with clay all over them. And they wanted somebody to introduce me to them, and they pitched upon this miner, and he objected. He said he had never appeared in public, and had never done any work of that kind, but they said it didn't matter. And so he came on the stage with me and introduced me in this way. He said, "I don't know anything about this man anyway. I only know two things about him. One is, he has never been in jail, and the other is, I don't know why." Well, gentlemen, I shall value that collection when I get in. Finished, I don't care where a compliment falls, nor from whose lips it comes. It is always a blessed thing to receive. Mr. Lawrence has spoken of certain compliments and attentions to me in England, and I remember them so pleasantly. They were compliments from great personages, and notice taken of me by great personages, and it pleases me to think that notice was taken of me all the way down to what Robert Louis Stevenson and I, sitting in Union Square and Washington Square a great many years ago, tried to find a name for. The submerged fame. That fame that permeates the great crowd of people you never see and never mingle with. People with whom you have no speech, but who read your books and become admirers of your work and have an affection for you. You may never find it out in the world, but there it is, and it is the faithfulness of the friendship, of the homage of those men never criticizing, that began when they were children. They have nothing but compliments. They never see the criticisms. They never hear any disparagement of you, and you will remain in the home of their heart's affection forever and ever. And Louis Stevenson and I decided that of all fame, that was the best, the very best,